It's funny how a game can have such an effect on you. It's so interesting to me how so many people grow up with a game and it like can kind of change your life in a way, or can change the way you, I guess, look at the world around you or see video games or just see anything, really. It's video games have a powerful impact on kids and adults and really everyone. I feel like it does more than people give it credit for. Growing up, I obviously I love Nintendo. That's one of my big franchises. Growing up, I always had all the Nintendo stuff, and I had an Xbox and PlayStation, but for some reason, I just loved playing the games that were on my Nintendo system, like my GameCube or my N64, and I can't really explain why, but we just loved Nintendo, and it wasn't necessarily the Nintendo games. I do love the Nintendo games, don't get me wrong, but there was always like those weird games that I would always play, like the side games that were made by like third-party developers, or just like the, just smaller companies. Like, for instance, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom was a childhood classic in my eyes, and I just love that game. It seems, and like Pac-Man World 2, it's just got a remade version. I love that version. I played it on the channel, and I played it as a kid. It seems like, yes, Nintendo has a big part in my life, and I love Nintendo so much, and it has such a big impact. But there's always those few games that just come along that aren't, like, they're either indie games, or just, like, third-party games, or just, like, games that not a lot of people talk about that just change the way you look at video games, change the way you look at the world around you, honestly. I love Cuphead, and I love that people love to see me ramble on about Cuphead. Apparently that's a famous thing on the channel. It's a lot of people, that's what I've noticed, a lot of people just love to see me ramble on about Cuphead, and I am totally happy doing that. Cuphead is an indie game, if you don't know. It's a smaller company, made by two brothers. I mean, I believe, one of the brothers' wife came along later on and helped a lot with the drawings, and I believe they have a team of like 10 people maybe, but like a very small company is Cuphead. It's just like, it's a very small company. So I cannot get enough of this game, like, for the life of me. It's so beautiful, and I don't know what it is about it. What it is about some indie games that just change your life. I love 1930s cartoons because of Cuphead. It made me realize how much I appreciate art. It made me realize how much I appreciate just cartoons in general, because I grew up with cartoons. But like, I feel like Cuphead, when I played Cuphead, it was like, wow, is this why I love cartoons so much? And I'm rambling on, but I understand a lot of people like it when I ramble on, but a lot of people just want a Cuphead 2 so much because it changed the way you looked at video games. It changed something inside of people. I have so much Cuphead stuff, and I used to think, like, a while ago, I was like, I don't know, like, are we gonna really get any more, like, indie third-party games? Because you got the economy and, like, how games need to be more expensive these days. You have to be bigger and better. But, like, these third-party companies and indie games are proving that you do not need a, like, huge budget to make a game. That's why a lot of video game companies are kind of, like, crashing, and, like, PlayStation, Xbox aren't doing that well, because I believe they're just, like, going bigger than better every time. And it's good to go bigger and better, but it used to be, let me back it up. It used to be that if a company sold like 2 million copies of a game, that was like the biggest success in the world, right? Because their budget wasn't that big, right? But nowadays, you have budgets that are so overpriced, so incredibly ridiculous, that it has to be like, the game has to be like so famous in order for you to like break even, which is so ridiculous with all these, like, the PS5 games and the, Xbox games. And that's partly why I love Nintendo, because they keep it simple. And like, yes, it's a smaller game, but smaller games can thrive. It's like, in fact, sometimes I like smaller games. It's not too overwhelming. So like with these indie games and third-party games like Cuphead, Hollow Knight, Silksong, they're doing so well because they're smaller games, but there's just so much more love put into them. It just makes sense. It just, like, why don't people go back to the simpler time of, like, instead of just making things bigger and better, how about you just focus on the core mechanics of the game and just make that so good, you know, and just make it, instead of just spreading it out, you know, like on a, it's like, it's a very bad analogy here, but let's say you got a piece of bread, okay, you got some toast, all right, it's in your hand, you spread in butter across it. Let's say if you're only putting like the tiniest bit of butter, like where you can't even taste it, across the whole piece of bread, it doesn't matter if the piece of bread is huge. If the toast is like a huge piece of toast, it's not going to be good if it's not. This is a terrible analogy. I don't know why I started talking about bread, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like if the piece of toast is huge and you spread the butter all the way across it, and it's so thin, so thin a layer of butter, it's not going to be good. But if you just have a normal piece of toast and you spread an evenly good amount on the piece of toast, people aren't going to care that it's not a big piece of toast. They're just going to enjoy it. Wow, that was a terrible analogy, but I think I cooked with it, no lie. Anyways, I'm rambling on. A lot of these companies today are doing so bad because they're expecting to just, they need to make it bigger or better. You know, it needs to be something so incredibly amazing. You have to do it, you have to make more money than the last game, so you have to put more money into this game. I'm fine with making games bigger or better, but when you don't put enough love into like the core mechanics, when you don't put enough love into like the simple things and you just drag the budget out to make it bigger and better and just, you put too much money into it, that's when you start to have like video game crashes and you start to have economics go terrible because you need to, in order to break even, you need to make like $20 million and the game needs to be famous, right? But with a game like Cuphead, yes, there's a lot of money and love put into it, but it's not way over the top. They sold, what, 2 million copies in like the first, I don't remember what it was, but 2 million copies right away, and that already was a success. You didn't have to worry about like making 10 million copies sold just to break even. It's so ridiculous. And I just think it's time that companies go back to this traditional way of making video games. It's okay if they're smaller, if there's more love put into it than a bigger game that doesn't have as much love put into the smaller things. Does that make sense? I hope that's making sense to a lot of people. Bigger is not always better. Sometimes the smaller games with more love and attention to detail is so much better than a new game that's just blah. What do you guys think? Do you think the video game economy is cooked and that smaller games are thriving and that they will continue to thrive forever? Let me know down below in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And of course, make sure that like button, subscribe, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.